Hey y'all. Today's objective is to convert to vertex form. So I'm going to show you how to change a quadratic equation into vertex form and then to find the extrema. Alright, so just quick. Vertex form and standard form. And then extrema is another word for minimum or maximum. So if you see a problem that says find what is the extrema or what are the extrema, then you're talking about the minimum or the maximum value. The minimum if the parabola is opening up, because that's the most extreme value. The maximum if the parabola is opening down, because that is the maximum, that's the most extreme value. And basically it's what the y is going to equal. We practiced the axis of symmetry is the x, where the x equals, and so the extrema point, the extreme value, is going to be where the y equals. Alright, so find the minimum value. Those are the directions. Right now they are in standard form, so first I'm going to show you how to change to vertex form, and then we can find the minimum or the maximum, because that's the vertex. So the first thing we have to do is you look to see if you can factor anything out. We can't factor anything out. I have a coefficient of 1. So we need to manipulate our equation, because we want to have this perfect square right here, or x plus h or x minus h in parentheses. That's the goal that we're trying to get to. So we need to somehow manipulate it so we can have that parentheses. Well, in order to do that, we are going to have to add something and subtract something. So let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to rewrite it. And we're going to leave some space, and then we're going to put plus 32 over here. So the first thing is we're going to rewrite some space because we need to get another c value that will help us collapse it. So we're trying to get a perfect square trinomial. A perfect square trinomial, so when we factor it, we can just get one parentheses. And in order to do that, you have to take b. And you have to divide it by 2. b divided by 2. So right now we have negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So the first thing you do is you divide b by 2. Then we have to square it. So negative 5 squared, and that's going to give us a positive 25. So let me make sure I repeat that. You take b, negative 10. You divide it by 2, which will give me negative 5, and then I'm going to square it. So I put it in that space. Now we can't just add 25 to the equation. We can't just stick a number in there. We have to keep it balanced. So if I'm adding 25 in the inside, so put your parentheses, that means I need to take away 25 on the outside. Because if you add 25 here and take 25 away, you really haven't changed it. And you know all about math. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do the other. So that is the process. Now I can factor this whole thing into x minus 5 squared. Because of the minus right here, I'm going to make that x minus 5. And then 25 would be the square root, or the square root of 25 would be 5. I combine these. 32 minus 5 is 7, plus 7, positive 7. And now I have it in vertex form. So it looks like in vertex form. So my vertex is going to be 5, 7, which means my minimum is 7. Because if this were a graph, it would be at 5, 7, it'd be over here, and it'd be up. So where y equals 7, that would be your minimum. So let me show you another example. Again, I have a coefficient of 1, and it's in, right now, standard form. So I'm going to rewrite it. And I'm going to leave a space for my parentheses. I'm leaving a space right here. And I need to manipulate my equation so I have a c that makes a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to take b, which is negative 12, divided by 2, which is negative 6, and then square it, which gives me 36. Because you're squaring that, your last number is always going to be positive. Always, because you're squaring it. I can rewrite it as x minus 6 because of the square root. Oops, sorry, I forgot a step. Because you added 36 right here, we need to take 36 away out here. Plus 36 here, minus 36 out here. 49 and minus 36 is 13. So plus 13. So there it is in vertex form. That is vertex form. So my vertex is 613, and my minimum value is y equals 13. That is the minimum value because that is the lowest that this parabola will go. All right, and so the next example, we're finding maximums. The reason we're finding maximums is because both of these are negative, which means the parabola opens down. So if the parabola opens down, that means my top point right here is a maximum value. So let me show you this. First thing we do is we have to factor out a negative 1. You have to have a positive a value. So if we factor out a negative 1, that's going to change all of my inside numbers. Positive to negative, negative to positive. Once we've done that, we leave that negative 1 out here, and we're going to rewrite it, and we're going to put this, when we take the 19 out, so follow me, when we take the 19 out of the parentheses, it's really a negative 19, because negative 1 times 19 is going to be a negative 19. So whatever you factored out here, you have to take into account. So when it's inside parentheses, it's going to be a positive, and then when I distribute it, it's going to be a negative. So now we take b, negative 16, divided by 2 is negative 8. Square that, and you get 64. And then if we're adding 64 right here, now be very careful. This is inside of the parentheses, we've added 64. But when you distribute it, what number is that really? It's not a positive 64, it's really a negative 64. So that means I need to add 64 out here. So I'm going to say that one more time. I hope you're listening. In the previous examples, whatever we added right here, we subtracted. But because we factored out a negative 1, all of these are really reversed. So really, negative 1 times 64 makes this a negative 64 on the inside. So the opposite of a negative 64 is a positive 64. So we have to add 64 to this one. I can now factor, this is a perfect square trinomial, so x minus 8 plus, and then you add these together, let's see, 64, 19, 45, so plus 45. So here is my answer in vertex form. Notice the negative means it's going to go down, and I'm going to have a maximum value of y equals 45. Again, you take this number, and that's going to be your maximum value. Let me show you this one. We're going to factor out a negative 1, so maybe this is a little easier for you. Go ahead and put plus 15 over here, because you know it's not going to be in your parentheses. And when I factor out a negative 1, this is going to become x squared, and this is going to become 2x. So I changed these. Over here, I showed it to you factored, all the way out factored, and then we took the 19 back out. On this one, I just went ahead and left the 15 outside. So I take b, which is 2, divided by 2, which is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm adding a 1 right here. And then because it's a positive 1 inside, when you distribute this negative 1, negative 1 times 1 is really a negative 1, so that means I need to add 1 out here as well. I'm going to factor this to x plus 1, because remember the plus. Plus 16. So here's my vertex form. So my vertex is negative 116 And then my maximum value is y equals 16. So if this is hard, I encourage you to watch it again, take it step by step. Alright. Find the minimum or maximum when a is greater than 1. So far the examples I showed you, a was 1, either 1 or negative 1. This one, a is going to be a number other than that. So we have to factor out that 3. So come over here, this is 12, we're just going to put on the outside. And we're going to factor out a 3, because remember we have to have a is 1. So I'm left with x squared minus 2x, because 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then I have this space right here. So I need to make this a perfect square trinomial. I'll take negative 2. Divided by 2 is negative 1. Squared is 1. So I'm going to add 1. Now be careful. You think you might minus 1 out here, but when we distribute, 3 times 1 is 1, so really I've added, 3 times 1 is 3, so really I've added 3. So in order to balance it, I have to take away 3. Because I added, this is not really 1, this is really 3 because we've distributed. So then I have to take away 3. So now when I factor it, I get x minus 1 squared, because of the minus, plus 9. 12 minus 3 is 9. This is in vertex form. So this is positive, so my parabola is going to be going up, which means it's going to be a minimum of 9. A minimum of 9. Whew. Alright, F. Same thing, I need to factor out a negative 3, and I'm going to leave my plus 25 alone. Leaving my plus 25 out there. When I factor out negative